everyone. Thanks again for tuning in as always. I'm AMD and I will be your host on today's podcast. Just had a nice interview with Charm, aka Lindsay. Met Charm doing the Cool Cats Online show. So Charm, worked in Hollywood down the street from where I worked in Hollywood, but we never met in person. I didn't even know who Charm was until the pandemic happened and online strip shows happened, and then I was sort of introduced to her through some other colleagues that I've had over the last few years. And I think that's something that was really beautiful about the pandemic is that so many more of us were connected like never before. So I really do value that specific like connection growth spurt that we all had. Um, but yeah, I wanted Lindsay to come on the show because back in July, her and her colleagues had lost their Instagram account, and then they got it back. And I thought it was kind of an interesting, inspiring story of losing the, it really fucking sucks losing your Instagram account. Some people lose them multiple times, and some people lose them and never get them back. And so it just kind of felt like a little bit of a win. You lost your Instagram account for being a slut and you got it back. So we wanted to share that, but then it turns out Lindsay has just such interesting insight on what it's like working in strip clubs in Los Angeles where tons of celebrities just walk through the door, like a rotating door of celebrities that we would see out there all the time. And I don't think it's something that we've really talked about at length, what that's like, what it's like to have really, really famous people watching you dance in like either half naked or topless, like all the time. Um, and yeah, sure, a lot of strippers, a lot of celebrities go into strip clubs, but in Hollywood, it was like every single night there was somebody famous, and huge, huge names regularly coming into those bars. And it's just a really interesting dynamic and something that I'm happy for you to hear a couple of famous people's stories in this episode. What it's like to dance for celebrities and how they behave in the strip club. Very interesting stuff. So, anyways, without further ado, you don't have to listen to me ramble on anymore. I would like to get us on over to Charm, aka Lindsay, to hear all about her. Hey everyone, I'm AMD back with another amazing episode. But at the top, I just got to remind y'all that we're still doing listener funded shows. So, yeah, PayPal is a thing. PayPal.me/yes, a stripper podcast. We are accepting your tips. We love getting rained on, and all of the money that comes in goes to guests and hosts of this show so that we can actually start paying sex workers. It's been really great. And thank you so much to those of you who have donated and sent in your dough. And if you haven't, feel free, a little bit or a lot, whatever you want. No pressure, $1, $5, $2,000. It's totally up to you. So with that being said, I would love to intro our guest. Hello. You know what? Do you want to go by Charm or Lindsay?
Honestly, both is totally good with me. Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
Let's call you Charm if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me start again. So, yeah, I'd love to introduce you to our new amazing guest. I have Charm on the line with me. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad that we can make this work. I've been dying to chat with you.
Yeah, me too. I'm really
Yeah,
excited about being on today.
awesome. Can you let everyone know what your pronouns are?
Yeah, I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. I like both.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm using both as well. I
Yeah.
like it. And when people call me they them every now and then I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like everyone defaults to she her, but I love hearing they
hmm
them. Yeah.
It's good to give people the option, I think. I mean, if you're comfortable with multiple, like to make the choice, because I feel similarly. Like,
Hmm.
I don't mind being called she, her. When people do use the they, them, I feel a little validated. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm loving that. And so where are you calling from? You're over in on the West Coast, right?
yes, I'm here in
Uh,
sunny LA.
yeah. What's it
Hmm.
like over there these days?
Um, interesting. With
Yeah.
things still being like, I don't know, things are kind of like quasi shut down at this point.
Mm,
Like the mask mandate is back, but it's not really super enforced. And I've been out of the actual strip clubs for 2 years now. So like I feel weirdly because of like the pandemic and the virtual shows and different activist things that have been going on. Like I've been like more involved with the community than I feel like I was before, but I'm
totally.
also have been farther away from it. And I feel like that kind of just extends to most of the social interactions I would have out here. Um
Right.
right now with the way that things are. So yeah, I feel like slowly kind of getting back to a semblance of real life,
Yeah.
which is what I desperately want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you did acro strip recently, right?
Yeah, that
And it
was
was yeah.
incredible. That was
Yeah.
just over the weekend and it was on last Saturday. It was my first time performing in person in the flesh in front of people dancing since before the pandemic and like I can't even explain how energizing that was to me. On one hand, it was exhausting because I hadn't
Sure.
used that much energy.
Yeah.
Um, but it was also just like, oh my God, like I'd missed that atmosphere so much. And
Totally.
I had the opportunity to like hang out and get ready with the other dancers beforehand. And just like, oh my God, it was really good for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear
I'm
that.
gonna be
I
doing some two shows with them next month as well.
Oh, that's awesome. More in-person shows?
Yeah,
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I could see like the energy on the Instagram videos of the crowd and like and gosh, I remember what a time. Like I think being on stage and people like raging while you're on stage is like just one of the best feelings in the world. Like wow, I moved these people to this point, you know?
yeah,
And I saw a couple of videos, yours and I think pepper spray, and I was just like, oh God, I miss that so much. What an exhilarating feeling that must have been. So
yeah.
congrats.
Because it's like it's an actual. I mean, not only is it there's the transactional money for my energy thing, but it's also like the energy that you're getting back, and then I can give more, and
Yeah.
that's what I love. And because before I'm a dancer, I'm a performer and an actor, and just like yeah, it's rare that I get, especially since the pandemic and I haven't been able to dance like that in person, the opportunity to like really have that exchange of energy with people where I feel like I really understand how they're reacting to what I'm doing compared to
Mm,
like acting or other types of stuff. It's like it's so direct.
yeah. Yeah, no, I guess I never really looked at like the difference between but yeah, being an actor and then being like literally on stage where there is that like transference of energy and um yeah, and I've said to people before like, oh, I love being on stage, it's like the greatest feeling, and they're like, oh, like why do you think that is? Because you just want the attention, like you just are an attention whore. That's basically what they're saying without calling me an attention whore. But it's like no, it's like what you said, it's like you're having like an experience with a group of people, and
Yeah.
there's something really special about that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
particularly like in acting, that's always the goal too, or like the ultimate goal is that like you can perform in a way that you change people and you give them like permission to live, and it's really beautiful. But that's I to me I think that takes a lot more, and that's something I work on constantly, like crafting and cultivating. For some reason dancing is just like so I can become so uninhibited in a way that it's hard for me to do in acting, that like I swear like I like black out sometimes when
Yeah.
I'm dancing.
I know
Um,
exactly what you mean.
but it's like beautiful, kind of like
Yeah,
meditative sometimes even. Yeah.
totally. Like when you come out of it, you're like, wait, what just happened? Where am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I get that. Ugh, the good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of those, you were, everyone like freaked out when they lost their job in March of
Yeah.
2020, right? But that was y'all in what, November of 2019 when
Yeah.
your club
Yeah.
shut down? Yeah. Do you want to give a little backstory?
Definitely. So I moved to LA 3 years ago, the summer of 2018. And then I started working at Cheetahs in Hollywood. And I worked there for about a year and a half until they ended up switching management and unceremoniously firing everybody over text one day. Um, and yeah, so that was really the whole formation, well, like foundation of my experience living in LA and learning how to dance here and learning who the dancers are here and just getting into that groove was done there. Um,
Hmm.
and I come from Michigan. I've been dancing for 5 years, so I'd been dancing there for quite a while before I moved. And it's a very different type of hustle. So I really had to adjust when I came out here because it's so much more competition and it's it's more cutthroat and the customers are harder to they're city people and they're
Hmm.
younger and they're not just there like it's not just older guys like who know what they want in and out and they're like nice
Yeah.
good Christians who feel guilty about it and they're just like gone when it's done. I had to learn how to really like you know put the I don't know how to word. I just like put my become the person who could convince somebody who was like my age who was just there to party to my dance.
Right.
And I feel like I had kind of just finally gotten to that point where I was making the same amount of money that I was back home and I was, having the sort of lifestyle that I wanted to financially and supporting myself in my acting and other creative endeavors and then it was just like shoot, taken right out from under us because of AB 5, which was a law that was passed that made it so. And I believe that was passed in June of 2019.
That
It was
sounds
it was in the summer, or at least it may have been passed before that, but I know that was like probably around the time that it actually went into effect for us.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it passed in
yeah,
January of 2019 actually, and then some
yeah,
people got extended and then other businesses were like, "Fuck that," and then eventually they
yeah.
turned over. Yeah, it's so complex. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Cheetahs was attempting to do the whole fuck that thing, and then somebody eventually was like, you have to you have to follow the law. Crazy. So eventually they switched us over to employee status, which in theory sounds like it could be really beneficial, but the the model of the employee manager kind of relationship that's common in strip clubs did not really support the the benefits that you would assume that could come from employee status. So for example, things like healthcare or other types of benefits, they ensured that we could only work a certain amount of hours a week so that we couldn't actually receive benefits like that. And
Right.
there were things like, oh yeah, now you're getting minimum wage, which, if it were on top of the money we were already making, that would be amazing. But to basically supplement for the fact that they had to pay us minimum wage, or rather compensate themselves for that, they would take the first, I believe it was the first 5 dances you sell tonight, and they're $25 each. So I had to sell $125 worth of dances before I even started making money off of dances, and all that money was going to the house. So
Right.
that was way more money than I was ever paying out in house fees at the end of the night. So
Yeah.
yeah, we were just making even less money, and it was harder to hustle because you had to prepay everything, and Yeah, so even
Yeah.
with all of the money they were taking from us, they couldn't afford to continue payrolling us, and then one night I was working a private party for FKA Twigs, and the next day we all got a group text that we were, in essence, fired. That's not how they
Hmm.
worded it, and they like to act that that's not really what they did, but that's what they did,
Right.
and we were very lost before the pandemic even happened because all the places that I personally would have really considered wanting to go to were also not hiring because they were having the same issues and they didn't want to payroll more dancers either.
Right. Right.
That was a lot, but
No,
yeah.
no, it's great. There's just, you're right. It was a very tumultuous time because everyone was trying to figure out how to make the dancers pay their own salary, their own
Yeah.
wages, basically. And because I remember, working down the street from you at Jumbo's Clown Room. Actually, I left before all of that happened, but they changed over to employee status January 1st of 2019 in Jumbo's Clown
Okay.
Room. And my accident where I lost my foot was like 2 weeks before that. So
Oh
I
God.
missed out on, me potentially getting fired. I was certain that I was going to get fired.
Really?
Oh yeah, because I had been there for a while and I am who I am. And so I talk shit basically. And
Yeah.
I know my rights. And I
You
think
don't
yeah.
enjoy being stepped on?
And so I wouldn't have lasted. I'm pretty sure I was on the chopping block and I would have lost my job too. And yeah, we were all just bouncing around at that
Yeah.
time. Yeah. And it was very difficult. And, I'm sorry that happened, that y'all lost your job like that. It really sucks. And I know that there very little community rallied around those dancers, you and everyone else. And I know that. And do you have is there anything that stands out about that during that time, or do you have any
About
feelings
like the
about that?
lack of
Yeah,
support.
I mean, yeah, that sucked.
Yeah, it was kind of, I don't know. It was just crazy to me. I was always under the assumption that like stripping and sex work and sex work is in its own way, but that's a different conversation. Like I had the idea that stripping was always going to be there until I
Mm,
decided to stop, then
mhm,
I would decide. Like I never thought that I was going to be sort of pushed out of it. And I
mhm,
know it was just one club, but the situation was so that it was really difficult to go somewhere else um, after that. And not to mention, all the nuance of like, well, I had this customer base over here and
right.
now I have to go somewhere and rebuild. Um, it was like a really tough time. I probably just honestly stopped working for um like 4 months and was, like, really depressed and really, like it was like somebody who loved me and, like, took care of me for 4 years, like, died, and
Right.
nobody felt sorry for me. Like,
Right.
nobody I was grieving, but, like, kind of nobody cared because
Mhm.
I mean, I guess lots of reasons, people kind of don't care about sex workers in general or, like, they think, well, that's kind of the nature of the business. There's this high turnover rate, but like when you get established somewhere, that takes so much effort, that takes so much will, and it's awful to like have to want to start over that way. And then beyond that, there were people working at, I mean, honestly, people working at places like Jumbo's or some of the other places that I would have liked to try to work around that were doing some serious gatekeeping. And I can't say that I don't understand it, but it would be a situation where it would be like, oh, they would be like they would reach out and be like, "I'm sorry, I heard this happened." And you would speak to them about it, or maybe you'd see them at a different kind of event and they'd see you dance and be like, "You're really talented, la la la." And then I'd be like, "Yeah, like I would really like to try to audition at Jumbo's or something like that." Um, and you kind of like plant the seed of like your interest there, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, well, I don't know if they're ever going to be hiring again anytime soon." There was really just no effort. And I
Yeah.
understand this. I really, really understand a scarcity mentality, but it's something like with stripping, we have to, even when we fucking hate each other and there's so much infighting, like there has to be a baseline level of like we're kind of not all the same, but we need to have each other's back.
We're
I don't
in
know.
this together. I mean, we are,
Yeah.
because there's no one. Okay, so the government obviously doesn't care. They make laws and then they're like, they don't do anything about the law that they made that completely changed everything for us. So the
Yeah.
government doesn't care. And like, we've actually specifically asked the government, like, hi, please care, like more than once. So, and they don't. And then,
Yeah.
and then, management and the owners don't care. And then, there's a very small percentage of clientele who like actually respect our work and what we do. And so yeah, so it's like, yes, we need each other. We need that solidarity with each other in order to get through what we're going through, because
Yeah.
it wasn't just the pandemic for California strippers. It was AB5, and then it was the pandemic.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we just, I don't know, I'm just gonna say it, like, I feel like there's a lack of solidarity in California and Los Angeles in general with strippers. I do. And
Yeah.
I don't mind saying that out loud on air. And it's been disappointing to see and to walk through. And so yeah, anyway, I saw that happen for the Cheetahs dancers, that there wasn't enough support for y'all. So
Yeah.
that's how I feel about
And
that.
one thing that the old like clients or people who like would come in and watch me, and like they did support me in a way. They would see me, I would post on my stories and shit complaining about it, and everyone, like a lot of people trying to be helpful would say things like, well, you guys need to start your own club. And I'm like, yeah, that's like, you're right, but like I don't know, like even with the virtual clubs and stuff, like I've found a passion in that. And it's in terms of like organizing and producing and getting all these different elements together, like event planning type shit. And I found a passion in it because I know that it's supporting other people like me who lost their jobs because of the pandemic or have had less work. But I'm just not interested in being a business owner or a producer or an event planner. Like that's not why I got into things. And
Right.
yeah.
Right. But also, I don't think people understand, like, trying to open a new strip club in any city is very difficult, because we're getting more conservative as time goes on.
Yeah.
So you're up against like a ton of red tape and all of that stuff.
Right.
And then like getting people in a professional level to take women and dancers seriously, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. It's not as easy like, "Oh, just start your own thing." Like, you can, but like
Yeah.
underground and kind of illegal at
Right.
first.
Yeah. And liquor licenses and like
Yeah,
adult
like,
entertainment, it only gets more expensive. There's a
it's
reason
very
that these
hard.
clubs are owned by old ass men, and it's families who pass it
Yes.
down because
Right.
they lucked out buying that shit when they did and starting it when they
Exactly.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to, the last night before the club closed on you,
Hmm.
you did mention briefly that FKA Twigs was performing that night.
Yeah.
And just for a little context for our audience, what, like about a year ago, there was this whole thing with FK Twigs
Yeah.
where strippers were like, "Hey man, you got to start paying attention." And a lot of Cheetahs dancers had an opportunity to, or didn't have the opportunity that you wanted. Anyway, so
Yeah.
yeah, if you could kind of like walk us through, what you'd like to share about that, that would be great.
Yeah, well, I mean, starting off in terms of um, when she was sort of confronted last year, that was I think that was a really good thing that happened, and it sort of built up. I mean, I believe that, Selena kind of started that, right?
Mhm.
And, it was I know that Faye had contact with them and was interacting to an extent, and then there were other of us dancers at Cheetahs who wrote these letters for Twigs that were going to be put out there, and it kind of built up into this thing. I don't know if anybody else ended up getting what they wrote to her.
Mhm.
But I feel I had the unique perspective of being the only one who was actually there that night.
Mm.
Um, and so it's been a little bit, I think, kind of like a salt in the wound that I never got my piece out there. And I had been working well, Susie and I think Teddy and Selena had all read it, and Honey as well, I think. And I got some good feedback from them, but yeah, it never went farther than that. I got the contact of Twigs's manager's email. I sent it to him.
Mhm.
I believe it was a him. Um, and I got multiple emails back from him, like the first one being like, Lindsay, thank you for your letter. Please be advised, Twigs is super busy right now with XYZ event and we'll read this to you over the weekend. We appreciate it so much. And so I would give the time and then I would check back and they'd be like, so sorry about the delay. I guarantee you that Twigs is gonna respond to you in the next 2 days. And literally that just went back and forth like 5 times and
Mm.
it never happened.
Right.
Um yeah, so
So this is specifically a letter
yeah, yeah,
that you wrote to Twigs about your experience of having her in your club that
yeah,
night, that last night.
mhm,
Yeah, and the intention was for her to read it and then respond directly to you, right? Like
mhm,
that was fully your intention. Yeah, and it was a great letter and it was so vulnerable as well.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, do you have plans on doing anything with that or just holding on to it?
Well, originally the idea was just to have, her read it,
Mm.
and some close people so that they could kind of, see it and check in, give feedback.
Mhm.
And then that never happened. Then Susie was running a blog for a while that the idea was for me to put it out on there, but they wanted me to do some kind of supplementary uh work with it with like different images and stuff. And I think I just felt kind of like kicked in the ass over the whole thing, and
Mhm.
I never really
Mhm.
got to adding to it in the way they wanted, and then it
Yeah.
kind of fell off. So yeah, it's just been like collecting internet dust in my phone.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, like I could read it on here if that's something you're interested in, or I could just kind of give the cliff notes of what the night was like.
Um, yeah, if you wanna read it, I'm open to that because it
Yeah.
gives like a full it's just so powerful, and if you feel comfortable doing that, then this
I kind of feel like it's time.
okay, alright,
Yeah,
go for it.
I might skip over some certain parts, but
Sure, sure,
yeah.
whatever is good for you.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm like a little nervous. I wasn't planning to do that, but I kind of just feel like let's go there. Okay. So without further ado, dear Twigs, my name is Lindsay Normington. The night I danced for you at Cheetahs, I was charmed. I am a multidisciplinary artist, and I believe that all strippers are by principle, especially those working in Los Angeles. I began stripping in my hometown of Grand Rapids, Michigan when I was a 19-year-old college student. The freedom it gave me sexually, financially, and artistically was unprecedented for someone with a history like mine. It turned out I was really fucking good at it. I paid my way through school, graduated, packed up, and left home for Los Angeles when I was 21. Like you, I'm an actress, writer, dancer, and more. Stripping was cathartic for me because it paralleled the exploratory nature of the aforementioned arts and gave me a new, much needed means of self expression. Not to mention, I felt financially secure for the first time in my life. Being able to dance in Hollywood, surrounded by beautiful and interesting dancers who are also involved in all kinds of artistic ventures, should have been a complete dream come true for me. And it was, and it wasn't. I'm still getting to know the dancers I worked with at Cheetahs for over a year. When I realized that working in LA was much more cutthroat than working in Michigan, I decided I'd have to be extremely dedicated if I wanted to eventually leave stripping and pursue acting and writing full time, as was my plan then. The thought of quote unquote losing my dream was enough to thrust me into a perpetual trauma response. I thought of myself as high functioning PTSD because I was able to cultivate my panic. When I went in for a shift, I wasn't just snapping into work mode, I was snapping into survival mode. This self imposed sense of urgency, coupled by a management that fostered a heavy sense of competition between employees, is the reason I'm still getting to know the dancers I worked with for over a year. I was so threatened by them and threatened by the idea of losing a client, losing an opportunity, or a dollar that I rarely gave myself allowance to become close to anybody that I didn't already know. Meanwhile, I was writing a movie script wherein strippers helped and uplifted one another, and I was doing everything in my power to get it produced. The irony is not lost on me. At the same time, I was constantly selling myself to Cheetah's customers as their dream girl for the night. I was also selling myself as an actress and a writer. The place was crawling with so called industry professionals. Most of them did their usual gatekeeping. Sometimes I had bites. This script is amazing and I'm not the person to help you, but I sure hope it works out, was something I heard over and over again for the few who actually took a chance to read something I'd send. A famous actress once took me to dinner and convinced me to help her get a job at Cheetahs as an undercover dancer for a quote unquote character study. As a thank you, she set me up with an audition for the same movie she was preparing for. I later found out that audition was fake. Another time, I got as far as a lunch meeting with the famous actor who was very exuberant about producing the film I'd written. I left in high spirits and called my family and told them about my good fortune, and he stopped responding to my texts and emails not long after. By the time the AB5 went into effect, the veneer of being a self made dancer had already begun to fade. I was so constantly burnt out from being on at work that I was beginning to forget who I was outside of it. I'd been in LA for over a year now, and there were certain things that were becoming more evident to me. One, celebrities were cheap people who like to dangle carrots. Two, it doesn't matter how nice of a club you work at, most of the people who come in won't see you as a fully formed human being. And three, the only reason I thought our management was good was because I'd been treated favorably for being a money machine. If I stopped trying for a moment, be it out of protest or out of exhaustion, I was criticized, reprimanded. I was losing a huge percentage of my income due to the passage of the bill. What was I supposed to do? There is always a girl who will work more for less, and I didn't want to lose my job to her. When I found out I was working your event at Cheetahs, I was excited. I had to manage my hope of making a lot of money that night because I'd seen in the past how large crowds full of influencers and famous people can do more harm than good to strippers' money. But regardless, I felt honored to be attached to anything that had your name on it. I'd like to go quite into detail about my experience that night because it was very eventful and because it was the very last night I worked at Cheetahs before I and the rest of my coworkers were unfairly terminated. The first thing I noticed were the amount of actors and artists I recognized milling about. There were even a few people there who I'd worked with on small projects in the past. These moments are always a little awkward as it outs me as a sex worker to them, and the worry starts to form in my mind that they'll now see me as less than. It was far too busy and the crowd was far too cool to try and sell lap dances, so I knew my only real hope was busting my ass on stage. I knew if I was lucky, I'd have 2 or 3 chances to make money during the course of my 5-hour shift. My first set went well enough money-wise. It was nothing exceptional compared to what I generally make on a Friday or Saturday, but I had to keep my expectations in check. It was just the start of my second set that things started to go awry. As the girl before me was getting off stage, I was helping her push her money to the front of the stage so she could more easily collect it. She was going over her time and sort of passively refusing to get off the stage by twerking for a group on the side of the rail and ignoring the DJ's cues that her set was over. Irritated and threatened and ready to begin my turn, I took a page from her book and started twerking for a group on the other side of the rail. I figured I may as well be making some money too. I felt hands reach into the back of my panties. Someone was stuffing in money. It wasn't allowed at Cheetah's, but when I realized it was two young actresses from Euphoria, I let it slide. Let them give me $5. Whatever. It was at that moment that the other dancer saw me making money that she got very angry with me. I snapped back and yelled at her to get off the stage. She assumed I was taking her money. In retrospect, we were angry about the same thing. We both sensed our money and in turn our livelihood being threatened. She ended up leaving in a huff and I went about the rest of my set with no problems. When I left the stage to go count my money, she confronted me. She got in my space and shouted at me. At this point, I was so tired and so angry, I shouted back. She put a hand in my face, I smacked it away, and I was ready to throw a punch when my DJ put himself between us and told us to stop. You were preparing to go on stage. You were only a few feet away. He said, I'm not about to let you do this in front of the client. And I swear to God, you glanced over to us, and I was so embarrassed. Not only because you might have seen me do something out of character, but because it dawned on me that maybe you wouldn't have cared beyond it and interfering with your performance. All of it had to do with the feeling of not mattering, of being invisible. It seems contradictory to say that a person could dance on stage and be thrown money and touched and grabbed and desired sexually by their audience and yet still feel invisible. But maybe invisible isn't the right word. Physically, I'm quite visible, but I'm voiceless. It doesn't matter how skilled or expressive I am with my body on the stage. People see me as a stripper above all else. They do not hear the things that my body has to say. When someone like you, however, who has a body of recognizable work and a high reputation as an artist takes to the pool, it's finally seen as art. You get to be seen as an artist. You are a subject. I am an object. I was dejected and flustered. I went to the bar to get a drink of water. The bar was swarmed with customers that I never got any water until after my third set. While I was waiting, though, I realized I was sitting next to a certain actress. I won't say her name. She was also stuck waiting for a drink. I struck up a conversation with her and let her know I was a fan, and I thought she was very kind. She even took a picture with me. We shared a few moments, however, which I felt only confirmed the distance between our respective worlds. Because the two of them had worked together in the past, I mentioned the incident with the actor who had claimed he wanted to produce my movie. She kind of shrugged it off and said something to the effect of, "Ah, well, that's just how it goes sometimes." I nodded in agreement, but in actuality, I was really hurt by that comment. Clearly, that wasn't how it went for her. Clearly, she'd been taken seriously enough at some point to garner an actual career. When she when she finally got her drink before me, although I'd been waiting at the bar for longer, she gestured over to her friends in the corner of the room, and I realized they were the two same actresses who had stuffed money in my panties from Euphoria. She told me she was going back over to them, and she must have pitied me because she quickly amended her statement to add, "I guess you could come along if you'd like." A younger version of me would have said yes. I even wanted to say yes in that moment, but I declined. Being invited to the table when there really isn't a seat for you. It's what happens to sex workers all the time. Good enough to be in the background of the video, but not good enough to be named on the main page, featured. I didn't want my feelings to get hurt again by someone I respected. I didn't want to sit there while some famous actors who had everything I wanted could tell me how good I was when I knew that I really only served as a prop by which they could accentuate their coolness or edginess or wokeness or whatever it is I was being used for on that particular day. Truly, I felt like the weird girl who was invited to the popular table as a joke. I know that couldn't have been their intention, and I also know these women didn't owe me anything, but I felt so continually slighted and shortchanged by this point at Cheetah's that everything was bubbling over and coloring the present moment. There's one more moment that colored my night, which I'm embarrassed to even admit. At one point, a member of your team approached me and said, "Twigs is wondering if she can use your dressing room to change for her performance." It probably seems silly, but as soon as I heard the words "Twigs is wondering if," my mind swarmed with possibilities for a split second and my heart skipped a beat. I don't know what I thought, but my body had a visceral reaction to the idea you could have wanted something from me specifically. Jaded as I may have been about famous people and working at Cheetah's, I can't deny that the part of me that looked at someone like you with childlike wonder and admiration. I wanted you to pick me. I didn't even know for what. I just wanted to feel special. I immediately chided myself for entertaining the idea and told her, of course, you can use the dressing room. And the next day, we were all fired. I was devastated. Meanwhile, everyone was posting pictures from the event the night before. I saw images of myself going up on wildly popular influencers and celebrity Instagrams, and of course, I was not being tagged. I had known if I had known it was my last night at Cheetahs, I would have swung on my coworker, not just because there would have been no consequences, but more importantly, because I would have felt truly significant for just a moment. It would have absolutely been a mistake, but I could have changed the atmosphere of the room. I could have an affect on people. And although the people would have no idea what I was truly so angry about, they would at least see the fact that I was angry. I would have taken attention away from you. And in some sick way, that it would have made me feel really important. I'm sorry that I feel that way. It's not something I'm proud of. It's sad because there is no deficit of attention to be given, but you and I have to go to much different lengths to receive it. And yeah, I think I'll stop there. But that's the long version. Yeah. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you for reading that and sharing that. I think what really resonates with me is that how strippers, specifically strippers, through media, music, movies, television, are like just showcased.
Yeah.
But in real life, um, there's just not a lot of room for us at the table, like you said. It's like it's fun and cool to be around them for the night and you look cool, but
Yeah.
to regard us as like any potential like colleague or idea person, it's just like laughable, and it's a very confusing it's confusing.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's something I really, being somebody who was like from the Midwest and having moved out here when I did and working at Cheetahs, like in the beginning, I had the idea that because I was around people who claimed to have pull or people who I knew were famous and they would sit and talk to me for hours sometimes, like I let myself, and for good reason, because it makes sense when you to me it makes sense, although it seems naive, that like it could actually be beneficial to my career outside of stripping. um and the unfortunate, I mean, I had some, nice people who, have helped me in some ways. It's not to discount all of it, but it it's I think it's really hard. Civilian people are just not used to looking at us as real people when we're in that position. I don't know. It's
Or
fucking sad.
intelligent or like smart,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I saw a meme or something. It's like, you think strippers can be dumb? Like, do you know what we have to do? Like, we
Yeah.
have to convince complete strangers to give us all their money just to
Right.
rub our bodies on them. And like,
Yeah.
that might sound like a no-brainer to some people, like, "Yeah, like, that's all guys want." But it's like, yeah, but when there's like 30 other people in the room trying to do the same thing,
Yeah.
and there's like all these options, and like it's very, very difficult. It requires an extreme amount of intelligence. It's a high working sales job.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. You have to learn to talk to all kinds of people and I don't know, amend your personality, but it's like it's less about like being fake and more about and like being a million different things. Not like
Sure.
pretending to be somebody else, but like inhabiting all these different qualities. I don't know. That's
Yeah, no,
how I look at it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, Los Angeles, I mean, I'm sure that they experience seeing celebrities in other parts of the country, but I think in Los Angeles, especially for us working in literally like in Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
They're just everywhere. And
Hmm.
they want to watch us. I used to say that. I used to
Right.
like yell this to the dancers at work. I'd be like, "Remember, bitches, they're here to see us. We're
Yeah.
entertaining the entertainers, like, because that's how cool we are," But then, like,
Yeah.
cut to, they don't think we're cool at the end of the day, you
It's
know?
so weird.
It
Yeah.
is.
Like they want to watch us, but it's some kind of weird like either it's look how much I can make you dance, monkey, or like
Yeah.
look how much I can make you dance for like no money. I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel
well,
like I've
thank you,
had that
Kesha.
experience more with famous
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Kesha and The Weeknd
That happened with you?
and Adam Lambert. Oh yeah, they come to Jumbo's and like
Yeah.
not Jude Law, same thing. Didn't tip
Yeah.
anybody. Didn't even tip the bartenders or the waitresses. And he was
So
was
weird.
there for hours and spent racked up $150 bar tab at Jumbo's. That's really hard to do because the average drink
Yeah.
price is $7. Yeah,
And didn't tip.
didn't tip a single person, not a single
Gross.
person, and was there for hours. Like closed the place down, was the last group to leave that night. Tipped nothing. And someone goes, "Oh well, he's from the UK." I'm like, "Fuck that, man. He's been
What?
living in the he's been working here for decades. Like that is
Right,
not an
and, like,
excuse."
you tip the strippers in the UK too, like
Well, it's a little different. You don't tip them on stage
well,
over
yeah,
in the
but
UK. However, he has been living here for a long
yeah,
ass time. So, yeah. No, no, no. So, yeah, I mean, geez. So they close Cheetahs. You send this letter, you don't ever get a response. And then
never.
yeah. And then any acknowledgement at all, even during when she was getting called out by strippers.
Not to me.
Right.
I only ever was in contact with her manager. I actually, because I was thinking about it since we were talking about doing this, um, and I went back and looked at those emails, and then I sent another email to the manager like 2 weeks ago, and I was like,
Mm,
"Hey, it really sucks that you know, literally guaranteed me
mm,
something and just completely fell through. That's really
mm.
uncool of you."
Yeah.
Definitely did not get a response from that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I don't know what I really expect even like
Sure.
at this point
Right.
for her. It's like less even about her at this point. I just want to feel seen, and at the time that like I think I was really starting to think about kind of just publishing the letter with Susie's blog. Then all this stuff came out about her, really terrible relationship with Shia LaBeouf and how abusive he was to her. And I was
Mm.
like, well, I don't really want to like release that at this time.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
But
just,
yeah.
I just wanted somebody to know how I feel. I'm like, I it's strange because I feel like a lot of the stuff I'm complaining about, like, they're kind of bourgeois problems to have of like, I'm a little I'm an actress in LA and nobody cares. Like, okay, like I'm a white actress and cheetahs and everybody just wants to watch me strip. Like, but I think there's a level of relatability there. Like,
Sure.
I just
Well, even though you're white and you're privileged, you still have feelings that is, we can share them. And I think that we can all learn from each other. And yeah, what happened to all of you wasn't just you at
yeah,
Cheetahs. There was no privilege for anyone in that situation. You
right.
all very unfairly lost your job. Um, and then a few months later, the pandemic hits.
Yeah.
And, and a lot of other people, they were able to get unemployment or they weren't out of work for what, 5 months before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then on top
Yeah.
of the pandemic, like that was a lot for all of you to handle. And I think that sharing your thoughts on that experience is very valuable because the story of cheetahs, and I interviewed Teddy and Malice a while back, closer to when this happened. Um, the story of cheetahs is an example of what can happen to any club, to any
Yeah.
group of strippers, anywhere in this country. Yes, anywhere in the world, but in this country at any time that could
Yeah.
happen. And the only way to make sure that that doesn't happen is making sure managers and owners are held accountable all the time. And the only way we can do that is together because
Yeah.
No one's doing that for us ever.
Well, yeah, and if you do it
Yeah,
individually, you just are fired.
correct. And there's
That's
only a
really
handful
sad.
of people who can do it individually, and it takes a privileged person, someone in a place of privilege, to be able to even say or do anything, because there's so many folks that don't have the voice and people aren't listening to. So
Yeah.
just just freaks me out, man. I get worried about where we're going if we don't unite.
Yeah.
you know um so I want to change gears just a little bit. You mentioned you do online shows. You're on
Mhm.
them, but you also host them. You do Cool Cats with like
Yeah.
and Be Sketchy and Teddy and Honey. Tell us what happened to your Instagram account recently. Because I know
Yeah.
before what happened to your Instagram account, every virtual show felt threatened that something was going to happen to their account, and then
Yeah.
nothing did, and then cut to your story.
Well, I mean, anybody who is on Instagram and is a sex worker or is close to a sex worker, or a number of them, has probably seen a lot of people getting deleted over the past year with the implementation of like new community guidelines and stricter rules about nudity and what qualifies as sexual and sexual solicitation. It's all pretty nebulous. We had been getting by on our Cool Cats account. We were pretty obviously shadow banned. Have like about something like over 1,000 followers, I believe. And yet posts getting 50 likes, and stories getting really low numbers. So that's already annoying, but at least we can share those things on our own pages. We can share things directly, and we have some sort of platform, and people can look for us. That was how it was going until July, and it was right before my birthday. I was doing a show for my birthday, and I was advertising for it. We always post pictures of our dancers, and we're pretty. I mean, at this point, we're all pretty educated about what will and won't get your post taken down on Instagram. But of course, it can be completely, I don't know. As you've probably noticed, celebrities can post their full tits and ass or
Yeah.
whatever, and
Hmm.
it really
But we
depends on the
can.
person.
But we
Yeah,
can't. Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so we got a couple of posts reported. We'd been alerted that they were either reported or it was taken down just algorithmically for spam, uh, that's what was really strange to me and led me to believe that maybe we were reported, because it didn't say it was particularly about anything sexual. But I don't want to throw that out there because I don't know whether or not that's true. Um, anyway, we got a couple warnings, and then the next day I went back to post something else on the account, and it was just gone. It was the day before my birthday show. So I really needed it that day to get people's attention and continue posting so that they knew when and where, and then it was just gone. Um,
Mm,
I ended up
yeah.
making a video about it and posting it on my personal Instagram, just kind of explaining the situation. And thankfully, I think a good number of people saw that, and it kind of, in a way, it kind of increased our intrigue that day. And I think we had more customers show up for that because people were like, that's fucked up, and
Hmm.
let me get on there and support. So that was nice. We really had some people come through because of that.
Yeah.
And then we were just down for a while. Um, but we ended up getting it back, which is the really cool thing.
So how
Yeah.
did you get it back? How did you get your account back after Instagram deleted it?
Yeah. So the process of getting your account back is basically you have to inform as many people as you possibly can about the actual process on Instagram about getting your account back, which is essentially that you go to the report a problem feature in your settings, and you say so and so, in this case at Cool Cats Online, has been deleted, and you say this page um, was important and it didn't violate community guidelines, it should be reinstated or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to get as many people and as many accounts to do that as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that's kind of nebulous. Like, I don't really know how they decide who to reinstate and who not to.
Me neither.
We were lucky, and I think we had
Yeah.
enough people show up for us, and yeah,
That's
um,
awesome. Because
yeah,
that doesn't happen. So I've been in the social media discrimination game for a minute now, for a few
sure,
years now. So
yeah,
I think since like the summer of 2018, I've been working on and understanding a lot. And I have helped people get accounts back the way that you say, go into settings, report a problem,
mhm,
and it doesn't always work. Sometimes it
yeah,
works, and then sometimes it doesn't work. And I don't have any idea how they decide whose comes back and whose doesn't, because I've seen all different types of folks get their account back. So it must be a numbers game, because I've
I think
seen a
so, yeah,
variety of different types of folks, because we obviously know that Instagram, it operates from like a racist point of place, and a able
definitely.
body place, and a skinny person
Transphobic,
place. Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So yeah, but I've seen all different types of people get their account back, and I don't know. I don't know. So I was nice that you had that success story. I was really happy to see that you did
yeah,
get your account back. And to anyone out there who has lost their account, and you want to know how to get people to help you get it back, you can write to the podcast Instagram, and I'll tell you, because I got a list of how to do that. So I'm sure you had to like put the instructions down, like step 1 do this, step 2 do this, step 3,
yeah, you really
right? Yeah.
do.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad that you got it back. Are y'all still doing Cool Cats? You still doing shows?
Yeah,
Great.
we've got a show coming up, it's gonna be next Friday, the 24th.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
this episode isn't coming out till November or December. So
Well, in your case, everyone, it was in the past, and look out for
exactly.
the next one.
But you have plans
Yeah.
of continuing. There's no like, you're just
Yeah.
gonna do it. Yeah. I mean, I have a
I think,
blast with you guys.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
just kind of, we've scaled back on the amount, as
Mm-hmm.
obviously the demand's not as high with things being more open, but
Yeah.
we have been consistently doing like one a month nowadays, and yeah, it's nice to keep up with and
Yeah.
to keep connected with, because I've met so many people
Yeah.
now that I never would have known before the pandemic, so many dancers and other types
Right.
of performers, and I never knew you before.
I
It's
know. That
pretty
is how we
awesome.
met, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yes. Yes. I love it. Want to be fabulous just like these strippers? Pay attention. It's stripper tips.
If Well, my stripper tip is specifically to those who have somebody who's a stripper in their life, or even just kind of like tangentially know somebody. It's just like, do something for them. I personally am a very big acts of service person. Um, but my experience of stripping is that it's so exhausting and it's so draining sometimes. And people really like will take so much from you without giving anything back in a lot of cases. Um, and so it's nice just to have an action of to show somebody that you care with your actions. I really think so. Like, help somebody run an errand or
Mm-hmm.
bring them a treat, or yeah, just something helpful like that. To me,
Yeah.
that's makes the biggest difference. That
Yeah.
kind of thing.
If someone brought me a snack, like,
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
that is so heartfelt, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm an acts of service person too. So that resonated. Thank you.
Yeah.
Get ready for our rapid fire question round. It's time for 4 for 1.
Question number 1: how do mermaids have sex?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I know that fish have sex by releasing eggs, and then man fish just kind of releases sperm and they just sort of find each other. So I assume it's probably something like that, but I think there's probably a lot of like upper body foreplay involved as well. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Why would you or why would you not try skydiving?
Oh, I absolutely would. I love heights and other kind of scary, thrilling things, especially ones that like pole dance, for example, is kind of under that umbrella, but it also like requires so much effort. It's like tiring, and the idea of just jumping out of an airplane and like falling and not having to there's probably a certain amount of effort involved that like I wouldn't necessarily be accountable for. I could
Right.
be attached to somebody else. So I love that, you know.
Yeah.
It's like a roller coaster, but even crazier.
Got it. I love that. Do you pee in the ocean or in the pool?
Definitely in the ocean.
Okay.
In the pool, I historically in a lot of cases, I have to be honest, I had. Um, I was probably I was probably like a teenager before I really had
Sure.
to decide to stop peeing in the pool.
Oh.
You know, and I was like, you know, this is wrong. I do remember a time when I was like probably like 7 or 8 and I was swimming in the pool with my cousins and like my mom. And I said something about like, and if you pee in the pool, it's fine because it's just water. It doesn't matter. And they were all like, no, that's not true. And I was so embarrassed. So yeah, I learned my lesson that
Oh
way.
man, thank you. If
Hard habit to
someone,
break though.
last one, if someone offered you $1 million to run a 26K marathon without training, do you think you could accomplish that and walk away with $1 million?
26K.
Mm-hmm.
How many miles is that?
Uh,
That's more or less than 26 miles. Less?
I think it's more.
It's more?
I don't know. I have
That's
to get a calculator. Oh,
um
I have no idea. It's long. It's far.
that's
It's
very far.
far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um I'd like to say I would try. Like, would I have to get it in a certain amount of time, or would I just have unlimited time?
You can't.
I can't ask more questions.
No, you can't ask more questions. But if you have to do the 26K, you can't like do like a part of it and like
And then like
sleep.
sleep.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to like do it.
I think I would definitely try. I think I would definitely
Okay.
try. It would probably be a lot of walking. Um,
Okay.
yeah, but
Okay. I
I
do
would
believe
try
that the question was to run.
to run. Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That changes everything. That changes everything. Uh,
Yeah, tough, right? That's a good question though.
yeah, I guess I would still try,
Okay.
and I would most likely kind of do this sort of like thing that looks like running, that's maybe walking more, and I would see whether or not I got in trouble for that. Um, yeah, I don't know who would be
Awesome.
my judge, but
I don't, the
you gotta
judges.
try at
Yeah.
least.
Wow. Great answers. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone out there that Yes, a Stripper podcast is a listener funded podcast, and we are accepting rain and money and donations or tips or whatever you want to call it, money in our account. You can go to paypal.me/yes a stripper podcast, and we use this money to pay our hosts and our guests, and we're very excited to be able to pay sex workers for doing this show. So thank you in advance, and thank you to those who have donated in the past. So Charm, can you tell everyone where we can find you and follow you and stalk you, basically?
Yes, please follow me on Instagram. That's probably the main way to get a hold of me. My Instagram is lindsay.bug, lindsey.bug. And if I got anything cool going on that you need to know about, I will most definitely be posting about it on there. So that's a good way to keep up with any and all of my endeavors.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
You're welcome. And thank you to everyone for tuning in to Yes, a Stripper podcast. We love that you listen to us and tell us how we're doing, and feel free to send us a message anytime. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. This episode has been a production with Period Podcast Network. Find out more on Instagram at Period Podcast Network. Be sure to follow us on Instagram too at Yes, a Stripper Podcast, and you can find us on Twitter at Yes, a Stripper Pod. Please like, subscribe, and rate Yes, a Stripper Podcast here on YouTube. See you next week.